So I was out for a run a couple of days ago, and I was on the track, and I was trying to like essentially kind of like I suppose encourage myself to keep going, and I said the statement of it's you versus you, and there was this like visceral response that I had that I didn't genuinely believe that anymore, and metaphorically speaking, it stopped me in my tracks because I kind of ended up breaking my own brain on this, and I'll tell you why. Years ago, my decisions, my work ethic, my determination, my doing the do came from one place. And it was fear, but it was also encompassed in proving, right? So both of them that went very hand in hand. And I went from proving myself, right, to being against myself. So what I mean by that is when I said on the track the other day, like it's you versus you, I bought into that mindset for a very long time. And it worked. And it worked for a while, and I got results. And I got results from both of them. I got results from being driven by fear, and I got results from being driven by like maybe fighting with myself. And when you kind of buy into the you versus you mentality, what happens is subconsciously you are telling yourself that who I am right now is not enough, and therefore I almost always strive to be better and achieve more. And on the track, I kind of realized that over the last number of years in particular, I've done a lot of inner work, and that inner work has allowed me to actually be with myself. And I know that sounds cheesy and I know it sounds cliche, but it is the byproduct of the deeper work that you will do on yourself. And when I look at that and I look at the journey, like I spent my entire life proving myself. I spent my entire life proving my worth, and my worth was always up for debate. And when it worked, it was absolutely incredible. When it didn't, it was soul destroying and it was bone rattling, right? And it shook me. And I don't mind vulnerably sharing, but the first two times I tried to end my life were very much in conjunction with like a relationship breakdown and a relationship failure. And when I look back in those times, for me, it was this huge concrete affirmation of stories that I had been telling myself, but it was like I realized in those moments there wasn't a single thing that I could do more to prove myself. And it was like this I'll never be enough. And it's like this light switched. And when I say that I've been in situations like that for the majority of my life where I was proving myself, that's how bad it got. That someone's decision to whether be in a relationship with me or not completely and utterly made me decide whether I was going to be on this earth or not. And that even to this day kind of like I feel a little bit like I can't believe I ever questioned my own worth that much. Um and I feel so sorry and so bad for that version of me, but I'm glad that I'm here and I'm glad that I get to speak this because what took me on that journey then was when I kind of went into therapy, and then I kind of started to maybe have different stories about myself and see myself in a different way. And I had this kind of almost like bought into the hustle narrative a little bit because that's the kind of space that I was in, and it was very much like it's you versus you. And that really worked for a while. I felt like it was self support. I felt like it was like me encouraging myself, but slowly over time, what I realized is it was really eroding who I was again. And the you versus you is the 1% better every day, and I still believe in striving for greatness, and I still believe in tapping into your potential as much as you possibly can. But now when I look through the lens of shit, now it's me with me. Now it's me with me achieving those things. It's me with me supporting myself through that. And the difference between the two of those I'll go into in a second, but how I feel within myself is night and day difference. So if I was to break down the difference between proving yourself, then you versus you, and then you being with you, it might give you context to kind of like help you maybe understand where you might be at. Okay. So if we start with proving, when you're proving and you're in that season of life and you're in that season of how you're operating, your fuel is fear. Fear of not being seen, fear of being left behind, fear of losing it all, fear if you stop, everything falls apart, fear of not being good enough. And no matter what you do, you will always be chasing. You wake up, you're chasing, you hit a milestone, you keep chasing. And while you're achieving, you never fully let it land in your whole entire system. So instead of every win being something that is like a milestone, every win just becomes something that you reset the bar with, right? And that is the trap of proving, because you're not actually building something. And that's something that I needed to learn myself. Like, you're not actually building something, you're defending something. You're defending your sense of worth, you're defending your belief about yourself, you're defending the sense of worth that you have for yourself. So for me, proving looked like saying yes to everything. It looked like needing people to see how hard I had worked and how much I cared. It looked like living in this state of constantly being on, while also being quietly exhausted all at the same time. And it was robbing me of my peace, my ability to be able to be present, and my belief and conviction in myself. And that's when I say I know the cost of that. And then when I shifted into the me versus me, right? I genuinely thought that was growth. Like, I genuinely thought it was growth, because when I looked at it, I kind of felt like I had made this massive like stepping stone into like coming from proving myself and no longer needing validation from other people, or maybe different bits and pieces that were like outside of myself, and it now was an internal thing. That's how I genuinely thought it was growth. And I started to buy into the narrative that like you're only your own competition, right? And that was like a sense of release for me. I was like, oh fucking thank God. It sounded strong. It sounded really healthy for me. And honestly, I started pushing myself harder than I ever did before. But I realised when I look back on it now, it was still a fight. While I was no longer chasing for other people's approval, I was chasing my own approval, my own expectations. And when I didn't hit them, like, I felt like a failure. And I pushed myself and pushed myself and pushed myself and white knuckled it. And I kept telling myself that if I just keep going and if I just keep improving, and I'll finally get there. I just hadn't defined what fucking getting there looked like. And I thought fulfillment came as a byproduct of that. So for me, when I look back at it now, I realised I was running the same program with different language. That's what it was. The proving energy was still there. But now I had just dressed it up in this like fancy dress of self-discipline or growth or personal development. And even when I reflect on that, the tone of my inner voice was very similar. It was critical. It was harsh. It was, you can do better. And what I was really hearing was, you're still not enough. And I think that in itself is what most high performers don't realize, is that as much as we switch goals, we might switch identities, we might switch industries or lifestyles, but if we aren't really looking at our operating system, it will still be built on fear and pressure. And those same burnout cycles will still appear. So when I think about the me with me, this is when, yes, on the track I broke my own brain, but when I reflected on it, I'm like, actually, living that now is has been the catalyst for everything to have changed, because I learned how to be with myself, not against it. And that meant learning to be in collaboration with my thoughts, be in collaboration with my emotions, to understand myself at a much deeper level, to understand and get to know my body more, to not always ignore the signals that it was giving me, to not always ignore the warning signs that were happening. And it meant giving myself space. And in real life, what it looked like is I rested when I was tired, and I didn't have guilt for it. I celebrated my progress instead of just always focusing on raising the bar. I didn't need to prove my worth, because actually I started to believe fully that my worth wasn't up for debate anymore. And that's when I really began to trust myself at an entirely new level. And because of that, what happens is my entire energy shifted from always being in this constant state of survival to finally knowing that I could build and breathe again at the same time. I started making decisions that were less reacting and more aligned. I started suppose, responding and planning and being proactive instead of always being fighting fires and being reactive. I started becoming calmer and clearer and more effective. And when I look back now, I actually perform way better now because I'm not fighting myself anymore. Because my brain and my body aren't in this constant fucking state of war. I can think straight. I can think more clearly. I can create from a lens of expansion. And that's the me with me type energy. It's like a collaboration instead of this fucking constant fight. So if you're listening to this, I want you to just pause for a second, because I want you to maybe ask yourself, what phase am I in right now? What have I realized and what have I kind of discovered in listening to this now? Am I proving, or am I fighting with myself and I've told myself it's self-improvement? Or do you think I'm at the point now where I'm actually ready to be with myself? Because the moment you start switching from proving to collaboration, your whole life will start to open up. So if this has landed for you, good. Because maybe it's time for you to be on your own team. Maybe this is the moment that you needed to feel to reset a new pattern and to approach yourself in a much different way. And if that's the case, hit subscribe. Let me know in the comments, what phase are you in? Proving, me versus me, or me with me? And if you ever felt like you were in a space of readiness to actually come into HHP, to learn more about yourself, to learn more about how you upgrade your internal operating system, I'd love that. You can find the link in the comments to book in a call. And my reminder to you as I finish this is, you genuinely don't need to try harder and do more. You just need to stop fighting with yourself and start collaborating. Because if you think and talk about freedom, that's where real freedom starts. Internally first. And then it can be external. Hope this helps. See you soon.